Chapter 1. I grew up fascinated by the images of the goddess Astarte. Her face was everywhere in our palace, in the city of Tyre. Carved into ivory tiles, etched into blue glass, embroidered into vibrant hangings that showed her and El, her husband. She was the queen consort of El, but secretly I thought of El as her king consort. After all, it was her image, not El's, that adorned our city, for she was the mother of all. I can still remember being very small, trying to be still and quiet as my mother braided my hair. Mother never touched my hair before, but that day she sat me on a low stool and began to weave her fingers through it. Her hands were surprisingly gentle, and the motion should have calmed me, but I could barely sit under the weight of my mother's strange attention. I clenched the edges of the stool, trying to be good, and stared at the embroidered hanging of Astarte on the wall opposite. Her form was beautiful, with hips and breasts so full they seemed to drip with the life she created. She was unsmiling, and her hair was braided like mine, eyes wide and heavy-lidded. "Who is she?" I jabbed a pudgy finger at the wall so sharply that my mother squawked and her hands yanked my hair. "It's the goddess Astarte. You know this, princess," my nurse, Shapash, said from across the room, eyes wary as she looked at my mother, as if expecting a rebuke. I frowned at her, imagining that my dark eyes were burning coals that could explode with fire whenever I wished. I hated how formal she became in my mother's presence, and I could not bear, even at such a young age, being treated like a fool. "I know it is Astarte, but who is the woman? Didn't her face come from a real woman? Who is she?" "It doesn't matter," my mother said, continuing to braid my hair, her hands deft as she wove the strands into each other. "She gave the goddess her likeness, that is all that matters." "But what was her name?" I insisted, squirming around in my seat so that I might look at my mother. "Was it you?" "Of course it wasn't me," my mother laughed as she did at almost all my questions. "We don't know her name." "But I want to know who she is," I said, my voice starting to tremble, though I didn't understand why. "Won't her name be written down in the books of kings like father's?" "Of course it won't." Mother's voice was edged in annoyance, like a crab about to snap at my soft flesh. "She was a woman who did her duty, as all women before her, as I did and as you will." "But you are queen." I turned to look at my mother's kohl-rimmed eyes, at the gold bangles on her wrists. Her body was as shapely as Astarte's. "Your name will be written down beside father's." Mother laughed. "My name will be forgotten, just like yours. It is simply the way of things. Now," she clapped her hands together and the bangles clanked against each other, "I'm going to rest before the festival tonight." Shaposh set me back down on the stool so that she could finish the braids my mother had left hanging loose, and I stared once again at Astarte, at the nameless woman, and clenched my teeth together to prevent myself from asking more questions that were called foolish. I was Jezebel, Princess Royal of Tyre. I would never become faceless, not even if it made me blessed. My name would be remembered. It would be written down in the manner of kings. I was 6 years old when I realized that I was not, in fact, a goddess like Astarte. My father had called me Little Goddess for as long as I could remember, and I knew he was right. Only a goddess could run as fast as I, keeping pace with the ships as they came into the harbour, speeding faster and faster until the world spun. Only a goddess could eat like I could, devouring figs and olives, stuffing my belly with lamb, and consuming so much melon its pink juices ran down my chin. But the true sign of my divinity was my anger. Only a goddess could feel the anger pulsing through my ruined palm, coursing through me like a thunderstorm that broke open the sea's depths. I often burned people, my mother, my brother, the servants, with my eyes, which I knew were full of fire hotter than a forge. When I looked at them that way, they flinched from the burn, which felt right and just. On the day I learned I was not a goddess, I was arguing with Baal-Ezer about who would become king. "You're wrong!" I screamed, hands and fists, trying to burn him and simultaneously turn him into an ugly snake.